ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on Broadway World or over here on the Broadway Podcast Network. You know, guests like our next guest are my favorite because they give me a run for my money because you can't even touch. I could spend all night and we wouldn't even be able to touch all the stories that I know our next guest has. And we have songwriters and producers on and people in the music business. They're literally, I want to steal their cell phone because I want their contact list because Fred has worked with everyone. And all day long, because I knew I was going to talk to Fred, all I kept singing was, well, should I sing it to him? Sometimes when we touch, that is my song. The honesty's too much, and I have to close my eyes. But I knew the Barry Manilow cover in the summer of '76 album, and I hope Fred got some money from all the streams that I've had of that song. And he's got a book, and he's going to tell us all about it. Fred, welcome to the Roundtable. Did you get any money from it?
You know, from that Barry Manilow version, you know, I probably wouldn't have gotten anything because I didn't write the song. I produced it. So Barry's version was lovely, and I think it was produced by Ron Dante probably or someone like that. But it was a great version.
Well, Fred, I love that song. It's a classic that will live forever.
Well, you know, we didn't expect it to do anything more than be a hit. We wanted it to be a hit. We thought it could be a hit in 1977. And when we cut the song, in those days, Robert, you could actually say things like, you know, this could be a hit, and it was possible. Like now, you have 1% chance out of 100 that you can say that it'll be a hit. It's just a different world out there. But you know, back in the day, you know, when we heard the demo, which was Barry Mann singing the music he wrote to Dan Hill's lyrics, we looked at each other and just said, oh my God, this could be a hit, you know? And so we cut it and it became a smash. And we were just kids. I was 23, my partner was 22, and Danny was 22. And we had an incredible amount of, we were very precocious kids. And I think we did a great job, but we never expected the song to live all this time. And it's become sort of a legendary recording, which is delightful for me.
It sure has. I look at you and I see your story. I mean, you were born in Amityville, New York, and went to school in America, New York, so out in Long Island, as a Jersey boy, if you're familiar. And the journey to you moved to Canada, which, I mean, maybe it's a very American thing for me to say, but I don't think of Canada as the home of pop music recordings necessarily. Where was your aunt? How did you find your way into this business?
Well, again, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on this. And we're talking about the book I wrote, which is my memoir of my life in music, and it's called Unplugged. So if you read the book, thank you for that. Yeah, if you read the book, you'll get a lot of great stories, but you'll certainly get some initial view, a view of my life growing up in Long Island. And when I was 16, I quit school, and I wanted to pursue my life in music right away. I wanted to just, get going. And it was the best decision I ever made. I mean, I was really very, very proud of the fact that I knew what I wanted and I did it. And so a few years of trying to knock on doors in New York, trying to get a record deal for myself as a singer-songwriter, I failed. But I was, but you'll sort of learn while you earned a little, and it was a good thing. You learn by every failure. But I didn't have any connections there. And my brother, who's 7 years older than me and became sort of my best friend by then, he had moved to Toronto to become an underground theater actor. And I followed him. And what I found in Toronto in 1972 was this incredible city in Canada where they were open to all sorts of creative ideas. It was a compassionate, exciting city that was really blossoming then. And I just fell into all sorts of musical work. And then a few years later, I started producing records without wanting to or expecting to. And then a few albums after that, we got Sometimes When We Touch. So it was it was an early start, but I became a Canadian very early on.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And Unplugged, as we said, is out wherever books are sold May 11th. So you can pre-order it and get your copy and have it. All the stories that we're not going to have time to tell. there's a litany of stars and stories and music from your radio to your television that have been a part of what Fred has worked on. So when something like that song comes out, it kind of shoots out of a cannon, and your career kind of shoots out of a cannon. Is that the ball? And then the phone rings, and record companies and people want that sound that you were able to produce.
Yes, I very much so, Robert. It was a, you have a hit that big, and out of nowhere, of course, you start to hear from people like Clive Davis, who wants us. My partner at that point, I had a partner, Matt McCauley, who we produced together until '81 when he sort of left the business. And then I was left on my own to produce, which has all been good. But Matt and I produced those early Dan Hill records together. And yeah, we got phone calls immediately from Clive wanting us to move to LA and be a part of Arista Records. And we had all sorts of great things happen. Interestingly enough, though, I mean, what I love about the book, and I guess what I'm most proud about the book, is that it really has a lot of left turns that are unexpected, but it's a life that is all about me following my muse, which was music. And I hope it's entertaining. But yes, to answer your question, lots of things happened. We moved to LA. But interestingly enough, in a left turn, the people that I loved to listen to back then were the great singer-songwriters like James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Paul Simon, and Elton John, especially, we were big fans. And so, interestingly enough, because of the way sometimes when we touch skewed towards a very romantic and very, very emotional bass, we got sort of typecast that's the only kind of music we could have done. Where I was sort of more into things that were a little, I don't know, more intimate, like a James Taylor album or a Joni Mitchell album or whatever. But so we started to get typecast in ways that weren't so good. I started to get, I actually remember one thing which was interesting. I remember that after Matt and I split up, not split up, but he had to leave. I did get a call from someone representing Kim Carnes, and Kim had just had, this is 1980, I think it was. And Kim had the big hit with Betty Davis Eyes, and I was a big fan of hers, and so yes, there was a call from the management saying, "Would you meet with Kim?" And I said, "Absolutely. I mean, I'm a fan." And so she was looking at me to produce her, and the problem was she had a preconceived notion, sadly, and a chip on her shoulder that I was just not hip enough. So we had a lovely meeting for like 10 minutes. And I didn't get to show her how hip I was, and unfortunately, she said to her manager, he's not the right guy. He's just not hip enough, And I'm like, dude, I'm way hip. I felt like saying, but it's okay. I mean, again, sometimes when we touch has followed us, and it's been a blessing, absolute blessing.
So you've been known then, I mean, you look at your roster of artists that you've worked on, if it's Willie Nelson or Billy Joel, or we grew up in a Carly Simon kind of house in our house, or Glenn Campbell, or people like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Art Garfunkel, and Jackson Brown, who is like one of my favorite artists of all time. Is Jackson
Terrific
Brown.
Talent, yeah.
You put all this out, but you kind of been known, like, maybe I'm giving you this title, I don't know if anyone else has, but you're like the duet guru. Like you produced.
That's very nice to say. I have been so fortunate in the last probably 15 years of my career that I've done a ton of duet recording, and I get called to do them, and I love doing it. I mean, I love working with these artists that are, the most iconic, most historic people in the world sometimes. So, I guess I'm good at making them comfortable, and I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to do a good job for them. But yes, I've worked with such wonderful people. I mean, and if you want a quick duet story, I'll give you one. Willie Nelson, I adore. I was doing a Jimmy Webb album of duets of Jimmy's most famous songs, done in sort of an Americana style, and we had a lot of great duet partners. We did his overdubs, and Willie was called by Jimmy, and they're old friends, and Willie said, "Of course I'll sing on this," and they picked a song called "If You See Me Getting Smaller," which is a lovely song. And Jimmy said, we should have Willie sing the second verse and maybe harmonize on the chorus. And I said, that's a great idea. And then he got Willie to agree, and we set a time when he and his touring bus would be passing through Nashville. This was probably 2011. And so I set up a studio, I booked a studio, and I awaited the bus's arrival for Willie's overdub. And literally the bus pulled up. I was outside while it pulled up, and the door opened. And yes, there was ganja smoke coming out of the bus. It wasn't like a Cheech and Chong movie. I mean, you know, but there was the smell of marijuana coming out of there. Willie and his wife walk out, and Willie doesn't even say hello to me. He says, "Where's the mic?" And I'm like, right over here. And I walked him into the studio, and I got him in the isolation booth. And he said, "I'm ready." He said, I learned the song on the bus. And so we rolled tape, and we did 3 passes of a chorus and some harmony. So probably 10 minutes worth of recording. And Willie said to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "It's wonderful. I'll comp it. It's going to be great." And he goes, "Okay, got to go." So it was literally a 16-minute appearance by Willie Nelson in total, between walking in the door and walking out the door. And it's one of my favorite moments on that album. And of course, one of the favorite moments that I talk about, because I just love Willie Nelson so much. And his thing was so Willie. It was perfect. It was just perfect.
And these are the kinds of stories we can get when we order the book, which is out May 11th.
Yes, there's 100 stories in the Naked City, and I put a number of them in there. Yeah.
Amazing. I can't wait to read it. I'm really excited for people to read it. You know, maybe we'll make some news. I would be remiss to have you here and not ask you this question about one of maybe the greatest voice that you've worked with for many years of all time. And that is the incredible Johnny Mathis.
Yeah.
And Johnny Mathis, you know, his last concert is heading up this May. What's it been like? Oh, it breaks my heart. I've seen him in concert. He is a masterclass. What can you say about working with Johnny Mathis for decades?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've done 4 albums with John. Just to know him is one of the greatest blessings of my life. I can't tell you, I've been in love with him forever, but when I got to know him and work with him, he became extended family to me, and I adore him. It has gone on record now, of course, as you know, that his short-term memory is really failing. So they're ending his performing career next month, or maybe next week. I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw him in December. I saw the show in December, and John did a wonderful job. And the voice is still the voice of a 20-year-old Johnny Mathis. Like, there's no one who could do this. Like, every old ancient great artist, by the time they hit their 80s or 90s, they got this and they got, you know. John still sings like that. He's got the bell. It's unbelievable. So working with Johnny was one of the highlights of my life. I did 4 albums. We have some stuff in the vault, which I'm hoping that Sony will allow us to finish. And but again, to be able to work with Johnny was probably as close as I'll ever get to, you know, the history of pop music.
Well, when you put on your albums or stream music this holiday season, some of those Johnny Mathis albums are done with this guy right here.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you right now, if your listeners want to hear one great version, we did on a Christmas album. The album was called "Sending You a Little Christmas," I think it was called, and but you can stream the Christmas song, which is Billy Joel and Johnny Mathis. And I think it's one of the greatest things I have ever produced. It was magical. It was done live with Billy and Johnny in the studio. And it was absolutely, it's one of my favorite cuts. I think it should be a Hall of Fame Grammy recording, frankly.
You're talking about Johnny Mathis.
Chestnuts, yes.
Yeah,
Chestnuts
Billy Joel.
Yeah.
The Christmas song.
Yes. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Yeah.
And so what is it like, Fred? You're the producer, right, for these albums.
Yes.
So you walk into a studio and there's Johnny Mathis and there's Billy Joel and there's a band or orchestra, and you have to press all the buttons, and then you are the one that tells them they're doing something wrong or to do something again. What is that like?
You know, first of all, I'm a musician, arranger, producer, so I don't really do any engineering. So I'm generally actually on the floor with the musicians live. Either I'm playing on the sessions along with the other parts of the band, and I can sort of conduct things that way better. So, you know, that happens a lot when I'm recording with live musicians. I don't stay in the control room. My engineer is there. But to work with someone like Johnny Mathis, and then for the first time, no, actually, this was the second time I had worked with Billy. So I felt a little more comfortable, and I felt comfortable the first time because we're both Long Island kids. So I sort of liked that, and again, I was such a big fan of Billy's. And so, am I the guy to tell them, oh, you did that wrong, or can you do that again? The answer is, yeah, I guess it falls on me to do that. But, everything about what I've learned over the years in production is to be constructive. So I would never say to someone like a Johnny Mathis or even a Johnny Schwartz, hey, that wasn't good, got to do it again. No, you've got to say, I think you got one better in you. You got to be able to turn it into a constructive thing. So I'm sure at one point I might have said, gee, Billy, could we try that one more time so I have more choices? Whatever it is you say it because, first of all, it's needed. But secondly, you make sure that you don't do anything to upset the joy that the artist is feeling.
And then you take into account beyond all this, and we're going to get to some of the other wild turns your life has taken in a second.
Sure.
But your songwriting, I mean, you have songs that have been recorded by some pretty iconic artists themselves as well. If you're talking about Cher or Shania Twain or Eddie Money or etc., is songwriting something that just comes to you like on a whim? Do you keep set hours? How does a song come to you, Fred?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I mean, in the book, I'm pretty. I crap all over myself about my songwriting because I did write songs. I tried to be a good songwriter, and I actually am a good craftsman as a songwriter. But I wanted to be a great autobiographical songwriter like a Jackson Browne or a Paul Simon or Jimmy Webb or whatever. And I never had the pain from early on in my life that these people have, and they take it out in a song. And I didn't have that. So I never really felt that my songwriting was as good as making other people sound good. Like I thought that's what I did really well was to be a music arranger and producer so that I could make the artists sound as good as they could. But I'm glad you mentioned songwriting because certainly I've done some songwriting, but it doesn't come to me naturally. Like I don't burn to write a song.
Got it. That's fascinating. I don't either, but I've never produced a million selling albums either. So,
I mean, you can't do everything, Robert.
You can't. Well, while we're talking, everybody, make sure you get the copy of the book Unplugged out May 11th, wherever books are sold. You can order it. It's pre-order is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of the places. Your life takes weird turns, like I said, because we've all, even if we're not into any pop music, even if we have never heard a Righteous Brothers moment or Amanda McBroom, who's been on this show, who I love to pieces, and all of these people that you've worked with, Johnny Mathis, we've all heard your music on television. When did the turn? I mean, I'm of a certain era. Like this was the show, everybody. 90210 was where it's at, and those soundtrack or hard copy or all of these when they used to have a theme song on television. What was it that made you say, like, I'm going to start producing these?
Well, again, my whole life is really about, someone saying, would you try this? And I say, yeah, of course I'll try it. I just really never say no. And so I can't say no. No, but I'm just thinking, I really fell into TV and film score completely without expecting it. Things were slow when I moved back from LA to Toronto in '81. My wife and I wanted to have children. We wanted to raise them in Toronto. And I was sort of burnt out on LA after 3 years. I didn't like it. And so I thought I'd be very busy in Toronto making records again there. And it was very slow. And so someone offered me a TV movie and some other things. And I said, I'll try this. I had no expectations that I would ever make a living out of it. But I figured, it might be a good sort of momentary pause from record making, and maybe I'll make some money here, and then I can go back to another record. But I wound up doing well with it, and the next thing you know, my whole career changed again, and I became a full-time, like literally doing 3 TV series at once by myself, a TV score guy. So I was a composer for all these different series. A lot of them were horror series, sci-fi series, action adventure. But I also did goofy things, like I did the Amy Fisher movie for NBC. I did, one season of Beverly Hills 90210. So it runs the gamut from Friday the 13th movies and the TV series to Forever Night, which was a great vampire series I love doing. And, and a lot of other stuff, like hard copy for Paramount we did. I mean, so I think what was really good about why I might have done okay in this field, because I had no experience as a film composer. And I also really didn't particularly have any desire to be a film composer. But again, all of a sudden it was becoming very profitable. And I got 2 children and a wife, and I want to make a lot of money. And so it was really a great run. And so I did it for 15, 16 years. But I think that, again, maybe one of the things that I did well was because of my background in arranging and producing records and being very song oriented, I could write much more hooky music, like things that would catch your ear for a theme song or for a theme of a character in a show, because my background was songwriting and producing songs. So maybe the people who were writing TV and film score, who were more academic and more orchestrators than, and classically trained, they didn't have that pop sensibility that I had, that I put into my music. So I think that helped me, But again, Robert, when I finished my years and years of doing that, which was 2001, I never scored another movie or TV show again. I was burnt out, so.
Well, I can imagine, because you have a lifetime of decades of, I think it's something now like 5 decades worth of music and work. And that's a lot of recording studios. That's a lot of credits. And so next time you hear one of those shows, that's Fred right there writing. You said you're not a good writer, and then you just named like 16 different TV. Just because it's not.
I think I wasn't the songwriter I wanted to be. I think that it didn't burn in me. But I could, for those 16 years, music came out of me effortlessly, scene after scene after scene, show after show. I don't know how I did it, and but when I was done, I was done. Yeah.
Well, I hope when you talk about lucrative, I mean, people, 3 million plus albums have been sold that you don't know probably Fred has anything to do with it, working for the Mouse. And these my mom was a preschool teacher for a very long time, and we would go visit her, and this was the eternal nap time albums. I mean, I'm sure they're being played for the end of time. The Disney Lullaby albums. That's all you. And you now, were you playing? You play them? You arrange them? What did you do?
I was involved deeply in the arranging. I played on some of the stuff. I hired certain keyboard players for different songs, but they were all my construct and my arrangements. And then we brought in Matt, my old partner, came in and he did the strings. And we did this first album for Disney in 1999, I think. And you showed it. It was called Disney's Lullaby Album. Instrumental versions of Disney songs and other things. And it's just very meditative instrumental music, and it puts the kid to bed. And it was such a tremendous success. I've done 7 of them. And I got to tell you, out of all the records I do and have done, the lullaby music I've done for Disney probably makes more money than anything else.
I was going to say, I hope it's lucrative. I hope.
Well, but the thing is also, it does such good. It's really, it makes me feel so good. I meet so many people, and have for over the years now, where people like, I just bought a new car, and the gal who was showing me the car, once she looked at my name a couple more times, and she said, "Are you the guy who did the instrumental lullaby music?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh my God," said, that was my fall asleep music when I was a kid," and she almost cried, And I was like, "Well, do I get a better deal on the car now?"
She may see 3 million sold and say you get a worse deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was very touching. That just happened recently, So when you realize that kind of music can do such good, that makes me feel very, very proud of what I've done. Yeah.
I love it. It's my favorite little caveat that I've read in your bio, and I can't wait to read the book. I'm such a music nerd about these stories. I want to be in the room with you all. I can't wait to read the book. We're talking, everybody, about the book. The book is out May 11th. It's called Unplugged. To get it, pre-order your copy so you can get it in the mail or wherever you get your books right on the day it's released. what I was reading and I saw that you had some ASCAP nominations and things like that. What is a publisher? What does that mean? And what do you do as a publisher?
Well, I mean, a publisher, a song is cut into half. So the writers get half of the money of all money coming in, and the publisher is the company generally that gets the other half. And many people, like a Paul Simon, for instance, publish their own music.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also many artists over the years who've had their music published by a company. And so they would literally, if a dollar came in, 50 cents goes to them and 50 cents goes to the writer. So a publisher it's a business entity, but you can certainly be your own publisher. Like a Jackson Browne is his own publisher. And so I did have some success just by sort of networking a really talented artist named Gordy Sampson. When I moved to Nashville, I met Gordy from Canada. He was in visiting, and I heard his songwriting, and I said, "Oh my God, you've got to get a publishing deal here," because he was struggling. And I networked him a publishing deal in Nashville, and I think I got like 15% as a finder fee of whatever the next 5 years of Gordy's writing, which was lovely. And I mean, yes, I did a great thing for him, but then within a year, he wrote "Jesus Take the Wheel" for Carrie Underwood, and again, we were all paid back. It was lovely.
Fred went out and bought another car.
Yeah, but it helped pay the bills, and that's good,
That's good. That song is so fun, and when I see that those not like that,
that's a great song.
Song.
I think "Jesus Take the Wheel" is a killer song. Yeah,
killer song. And the songs you have worked on are killer songs, and the songs and the stories that you have are killer songs. I'm going to be this weekend, Fred. My partner is reading a book about dragons and fantasy, and I can't get into. I couldn't care less about a dragon or a knight in the shining armor.
Right.
But while he's laying on the couch reading about dragons, I will be curled up with your book, and I'm going to let you know when I'm done with it on Monday, because I'm going to spend this weekend and read it. Yeah. And I implore everyone else, if there's a book club for the Roundtable here on Broadway World or Broadway Podcast Network, this is this month's book that you definitely.
I'm very honored. And listen, I think it's a fun read. I think I try to make people laugh within the pages of it. It's a book that definitely is someone who made their life navigating the world of music. Yeah.
Well, I'm sold. I was my first job ever was selling tickets, and I went to school to be a music management major, and I chickened out because I got scared and thought I'll never make a living. I'll go into education, which maybe was good, maybe was bad. I don't know. But what I do know is that the love of music and what you've done and the lifetime of music you've given us is something that will live forever. And I can't thank you enough for working with all the artists that we love and for giving us the soundtrack to our lives.
Well, you're very kind. I really feel I'm just a fortunate person to keep making music right now.
Well, Unplugged, get your copy. And Fred, please come back, talk to us. And next time you make more albums, more music, more books, whatever you've got up your sleeve. Well, our show is your show anytime.
Well, that's pretty great. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Have a good one. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.